Instagram and TikTok are full of trainers trying to promote their pages. While there are some great, knowledgeable, and handsome trainers on there like myself, there are a lot of idiots on there that have their exercise doing the dumbest and most absurd things I've ever seen. So I figured it'd be fun to take a look at some of these idiots. If you don't know who I am, my name is Rios. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Exercise Science. And because I'm here to make fitness great again, I'll be going over some of the worst trainers on social media. Also, if you want to start training like an athlete for free, be sure to start a free trial on my Aesthetic Athlete Academy. With this free trial, you get to try out the community, free workout routines, and a free consultation call with me. Click the link in the description if you're interested. Alright, we're starting off strong here with one of the most absurd videos I've ever seen. I mean, what the fuck is this? I mean, even people in the comments are clowning this trainer, with one guy saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And this logic applies to bodybuilding too. Someone else said, have you tried adding more instability using heavier barbells and adding more random distractions? This trainer would probably be on board with more random distractions, but not with the heavier barbells, because if you're able to use heavier barbells, then the exercise is stable enough for you to produce more force. I have a lot of questions, I just don't know which one to ask. I'm thinking the same thing, bro, but I'm gonna try my best here. I'll go over a few of my absolute favorite exercises this retard has his client doing. The first exercise is a Bulgarian split jump, which is actually a great exercise to improve single leg power, into a header for some reason, then jumping off a resistance band back to the Bulgarian split jump. Like, why, dude? Why? Why are we combining plyometrics with a header? All this is gonna do is take focus away from the Bulgarian split jump, which should be done at maximal intensity, because she has to focus on making sure she heads the ball back to the trainer. Then after she heads the ball, she lands on a resistance band, then jumps back to the beginning. Like, why does she need to land on a resistance band? And you shouldn't even be doing plyometrics on unstable surfaces because it doesn't allow for force transfer. I mean, this exercise has to be in my top 3 most ridiculous exercises ever, because I just don't know what the heck is going on here. The next exercises I want to talk about are the rear foot elevated squat with a resistance band and a barbell squat on a resistance band. The way that you're instantly able to tell that these exercises are not effective is by looking at how much weight she's doing. She's using a 5 or 10 pound plate on the first exercise and about 25 pound plates on the second. These exercises are way too unstable to where she can't use a lot of weight. Unstable environments are not recommended for athletes because they reduce training loads and force outputs, which subsequently reduces training benefits. I always get some absolute moron in the comments going, oh, what if she's working on stability, bro? This is absolute ass for that too. Instability devices train an artificial type of balance that doesn't exist in sport. Last time I checked, you don't play soccer on an unstable surface like a resistance band. Real balance for athletes is about control, force, and reactivity on stable surfaces. Just because something is harder doesn't mean it's more effective or that it will transfer over better. An example I like to use is driving with your eyes closed. I can start driving with my eyes closed, and of course it's harder than driving with my eyes open, but it doesn't mean it will help me when I open my eyes up. I could choose to learn Chinese instead of perfecting my Spanish, and Chinese would be much harder, but it won't help me at all. The only reason why learning Chinese would be helpful for me is when I go in order at Panda Express. The form of training this trainer has his client doing just leads to her training a much slower, weaker version of movements that she needs to work on. If he wants her to improve her balance, it'd be much better for him to have her do single leg RDLs, single leg squats, or other unilateral exercises that he's able to load up. And he can also incorporate unilateral plyometrics where she can move faster and improve balance. Next, we have the exercise where she jumps off of a Stairmaster onto a box. Yeah, I remember one time when I was playing soccer where a random Stairmaster and a random box spawned in, and if I didn't jump onto the box from a moving Stairmaster, we would lose the game. There's just so many questions I have here, like what is the point of doing this? Why does she have to jump off a Stairmaster at all, and why is the Stairmaster moving? We then have 2 exercises where she's doing some volleys, one where she's on a treadmill doing some side shuffles, and one where she steps on some Bosu balls. First of all, this dude doesn't understand that adding a soccer ball to exercises doesn't make it more sport specific or doesn't make it transfer over better. And actually, you're likely going to get worse results because you won't be able to train intense enough to get the adaptations you're looking for. This is why athletes do strength and conditioning with training and not just training. Second, maybe she should just work on skills when she's training. How about that? And third, the Bosu ball exercise in particular is absolutely retarded. At least she's not working on balance in isolation, but when in in a game will she be volleying a ball when the ground is giving? Never. So why are we doing that in the gym? Instability devices have their place for rehab, but for trained athletes, the scientific literature doesn't support it as there's little transfer and does not decrease injury risk either, because most injuries happen under high force, high speed, and unpredictable conditions, which is the opposite of what happens on a Bosu ball. I'm hoping and praying for this girl that this is not the only thing her trainer has her doing, and he just posts this on Instagram because it's so ridiculous it actually gets good engagement. Here we got another idiot making the exercise look exactly like the sport. We got some comments saying elite BS, and this is by far the dumbest exercise selection I've ever seen. Apparently this is trying to teach this guy about weight shift, but my question is, why are we doing a single leg squat, then replacing it with a bat, and then swinging? My only guess is that maybe he's just trying to get those leg muscles firing before swinging, but even with that, it's still pretty ridiculous. The way I see it is that he's turning strength training into technique training, and this kind of technique training where you're working on weight shift should probably be done with an expert like your hitting coach, rather than a strength and conditioning coach, if I can even call this guy that. My question is, why not work on a single leg squat with enough volume and intensity, and then work on weight shift and swing the actual bat in practice? I can't stress this out enough. The goal of strength training for athletes is to develop physical preparation necessary for an athlete to effectively utilize their skills as fast and long as possible and to prevent injury. Not to get better at skills because you do that during practice.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Here we got some guy weightlifting with freaking cleats on. We got a comment saying, so we are just making stuff up as we go at this point. Took a while to get the swimmers and basketball guys behind the idea of training in cleats, but we've only had 9 injuries this week. Bro, if we're wearing cleats to lift weights now, we might as well install grass in the weight room so it's more sport specific. I can't believe I have to say this, but cleats were designed to grip grass or turf, not to grip the weight room floor. And if you walked on a hard surface with cleats on before, you've likely slipped and fell on your ass. I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me. So wearing cleats in the weight room will probably exponentially increase your injury risk. Wearing cleats will also lead to terrible force transfer. Weightlifting demands stable foot contact with the ground to generate force production, and alignment. Train in the gym with your fucking flat shoes, get strong, and use that strength on the field.
Lock in, lock in. Oh, tight, big control.
Alright, what made this trainer think this kid was strong enough to handle this weight? Lock in, lock in. Dude, he can't fucking lock in. The weight is too heavy for him. I don't even know why this kid was doing a 1 rep max. Unless you're a power lifter, there's no need to do one. You're just gonna be playing with death, and even if you're trying to improve strength, the lowest you should be going is like 3 reps. That's why when people ask me what my 1 rep max is, I always tell them I don't know, because I never train a 1 rep max. There's just no point for me. My bad, ignore that guy at the end because that's the only version of the video I found. This exercise is absolutely ridiculous, but there's actually people supporting her in the comments. I bet you the cleats guy agrees with her and runs on the treadmill with his cleats on. The purpose of training on the treadmill is either to warm up or improve your conditioning, not to get good at whatever this is called. Any smart coach would have her walk on the treadmill to improve her aerobic base, which I'm guessing she doesn't need a crazy aerobic base, but she still probably needs one. And then she does whatever this shit is called in training. The only excuse she has to do this on a treadmill is that she just has nowhere else to train. Even the guy choking the chicken would be good to go if he just did hammer curls with heavy weight on a regular basis. Next we got LeBron James here balancing on a Swiss ball while holding a kettlebell upside down while balancing another kettlebell on top of this kettlebell. Like, why? Like, why are we doing this? So many NPCs see this and go, oh well, it's LeBron James, man, he's an amazing basketball player and it clearly works for him. First, have you seen my basketball skills? I'm like the Messi of basketball. And second, the claim that it works for him is stupid for multiple reasons. You don't know if this is actually creating significant adaptations, which it's not, and he's likely doing basic basic stuff the majority of the time that actually makes him so athletic, he just doesn't post it. After doing some digging, I was actually able to find a clip of him doing pull-ups. And last but not least, elite athletes respond to pretty much anything. I mean, guys like me and LeBron are genetic freaks. When it comes to this exercise in particular, it just makes absolutely no sense. We already talked about balancing on unstable surfaces, so that's obviously dumb. Some people claim that balancing on instability devices is better for core development, but this is based on surface level logic. You're working harder to stabilize, man, so your core must be working hard. Instability does not equal better core training. Your core's main job is to resist movement and transfer force. Instability training leads to less force and less overload because you cannot load the exercise up properly. The instability also shifts the focus from strength to an artificial kind of balance. It's far better to work your core from a much more stable position than this and load it up properly. Now onto the kettlebells, and holding a kettlebell upside down challenges your shoulder stability. And then we have him balancing some kettlebells on top of these kettlebells, which just makes this exercise complicated for no reason. A better way to challenge shoulder stability is to do an upside down kettlebell press or kettlebell hold on the actual floor instead of, I don't know, a Swiss ball? The upside down kettlebell presses is a dynamic way to work on shoulder stability, which I really like. And he can load both of these exercises up way more, which will lead to better shoulder stability. Now onto the last stupid trainer, and it's Charles Oliveira's trainer. Every time I see Charles Oliveira training, he trains like a freaking bodybuilder with a bunch of machines and isolation exercises. If I didn't know who Charles Oliveira was, I would have thought he was some up-and-coming bodybuilding influencer. I love Oliveira, but he needs to get a new trainer. As an athlete, you should not be using machines, or at least not prioritizing them. Machines do not transfer as effectively as free weights to sports because they're just far too stable. Machines guide the path of motion for you, but in sports, your body constantly stabilizes joints, adjusts to unpredictable forces, and coordinates full body movement. Machines don't replicate this, which is why spamming machines will lead to increased injury risk and decreased force production when compared to using free weights. Most machines are also seated, which takes the core out of the equation, which is crucial. In sports, your core is constantly stabilizing the transfer power between your limbs, and machines don't replicate this. And machines also remove the need to produce or absorb force through your feet, which is again crucial for sports. I mean, I could go on for days as to why machines aren't the best option to improve performance. My theory is that Oliveira either walked to a random bodybuilding gym by his house and asked for a trainer, or Oliveira likes training like a bodybuilder and his coach accepts this. Some athletes are more prone to boredom or burnout, so making sure they buy into your program and are enthusiastic is important. The best exercise variation for an athlete is not always the most sport specific, but rather one they enjoy and perform enthusiastically as long as it improves performance. My issue here is that doing a pure bodybuilding program as an MMA fighter is just dumb. A fighter's training program should revolve around improving performance, and training the same way as a bodybuilder won't help him become a better fighter, or at least not optimally. If Charles loves machines and training like a bodybuilder so much, maybe he can just add a few exercises to the end of his workouts, but the foundation of his program needs to be free weights to maximize the transferability of his gym work to the octagon. So those are some of the worst sports trainers I've ever seen. Let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out this video where I go over free weights versus machines and which one is better for athletic performance.